You sound really good.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now
Good.
we're live. We are live. And
Okay.
tonight we have with us, we have, am I using your name? Or
Dave.
just want to go? Dave. Okay. All right. I didn't know if you wanted me to say your name out loud or if we were going. So Dave is actually the creator of a game. I'm super excited to have him here. The game is called Relapse versus Recovery. And it's very interesting. It's kind of really edgy, and I like it. I'll let him explain actually because I really don't know a lot about it, but I am super excited to learn about it.
Okay. Where would you like me to start?
Well, if you want to start wherever you want, actually, if you want to, we can start off and you can talk about your journey and how you got here, and then kind of go into how you developed the game, or if the game is part of your recovery, however you want to. I really try to leave it up to my guests. It's your story.
Okay, I'll start off. My recovery date is 6/9/16, so I'm 9.5 years clean. I've had multiple relapses. I've been in and out of the program since I was court ordered at 12 years old back in 1997. So it's been a fun journey. I've been reading, this literature and going to meetings since I was a child. So I've had my ups and downs and ins and outs with, AA and NA and all the fun stuff.
You say you've been going to meetings since you were a child. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so back when I was in middle school, I got in some trouble. This was shortly after the Columbine situation happened, and I had gotten into a fight in school and I used a weapon. So they had this zero tolerance policy. So I got in a bunch of trouble, and I got put on probation, and I just couldn't pass a drug test when I was 12 years old. So I just kept giving them dirty urines with weed, and I would get caught drinking, and I was just always in trouble from day one. So that's kind of, they say...
I relate to that so hard. I started doing drugs super, super young. I was smoking pot at 9 years old and, doing harder stuff at like 11, 12. So I relate to that really hard.
Yeah, they say it's a program of attraction, not promotion. And the judge and my dad and my probation officer were very attracted to the idea of me going to meetings.
And recovery was so different back then too. Like I say all the time, like I am so happy for the people that are in recovery now, that are like in treatment stuff now, because when I'm my clean date is 9/13/17. So
okay.
when I was in treatment and stuff, it was not a big thing. Like recovery wasn't a big thing. It wasn't accepted like it is today, and there wasn't as many resources and all the things. So it was, I can only imagine, if you were trying to get resources at like, 10, 11, 12 years old, like there was probably none, because when I entered treatment at like 19, 20, there was none,
Yeah, there was very little. I mean, there was programs. I remember my brother had been through rehab when he was a juvenile. He's older than I was, well, older than me. So we had some stuff, and my dad was in the program. So we had a little bit, but it was mostly just church basements. Like and then, when you're a teenager in there, and it's just like, it's very hard to grasp the reality of any of it.
Yeah.
There's guys in there talking about how they lost their wife and their kids and their house and their car. And I'm like, dude, I own a bicycle. I don't.
Yeah. I was just talking earlier. I did a live earlier today, and I was talking about how, when I was like, I thought I was entitled to get high. Like, I'm 19, 20 years old with no responsibility, so I can completely like, they're like, oh, I lost my house and my car. I don't have a house and a car like that. I'm like, look at.
So, yeah, what would you, where would you like to, like?
Okay, I'm sorry. So you said, you struggled all through your teens. When and how did you finally find recovery?
2016, I was living in my Hyundai Elantra hatchback with two roommates in Kensington. And we were just, driving until the wheels fell off. Just, a lot of shoplifting, shooting fentanyl, dope, coke, You know, Kensington is it's a world of its own. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but it's just
No,
it's an
I'm
open air
not at
gym
all.
packet. So it's there's people down there. It's a zombie land. You know, there's just people are smoking crack and shooting heroin. Well, it's not even heroin anymore. They're shooting fentanyl and xylazine just on the street, out in the open. Cops 10 feet away doing nothing. It's
Why? Why
it's a
are they
free
not
for
doing
all
it?
because there's no
Because
resources to
there's
do
just so
anything.
many that they just can't. Like, what's the point?
Yeah,
Where is this
yeah.
at?
It's like the borderline of Northeast North Philly.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that is crazy. I
yeah.
have heard, like, I've seen videos and stuff. I thought that was not in America. Like,
No,
like,
it's a
yeah, like
third
when I
world
see the
country.
videos and stuff online. Yeah, Philadelphia. And that's
Yeah,
crazy. Like, I really thought I was like, I don't know, somewhere else. Like, I that's so sad to believe that that's happening here in our country. But
yeah. It's the birthplace of our nation, and it is dying. But so my last run, I had gotten arrested. Thankfully, they were still locking people up for shoplifting and just being a menace back then, back in 2016. And I went through probably the worst withdrawal. I didn't realize how much fentanyl I was doing. Like I thought I was still shooting heroin, but it was a lot of fentanyl. And I went through the worst withdrawal of my life where I don't mean to get too graphic, but I'm throwing up stomach bile. I can't eat, I can't drink. You
diarrhea,
know,
leg cramps, can't sleep.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stay awake. Eventually, I was in my bunk. I'm in a dorm setting in the jail, and I eventually just shit and pissed on myself. A couple people grabbed my bunk, picked me and my mattress up, and slid me to the door, and was like, "He is not good enough for
Get him
jail."
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So they put me in a medical unit, and I was there for like 3 weeks until I could actually like eat a whole tray worth of food. They weren't going to put me out in Gen Pop anymore. So yeah, it was a wild experience. And I remember I went back, I went into the regular jail, and I was there for maybe 2 days, and somebody was offering me dope, and it was that moment where I was just like, I never want to do that again. Like I might actually be done. It was like I just survived it, and yeah, and then there was I was there for maybe 2 months before I got out, and I still had a bunch of court dates. I had to go back to jail later, but I got out, lived with my mom for a little while, kind of just like got my bearings, had to go turn myself in, and I did 6 months in jail. And while I was there, I was just so bored because I wasn't getting high. I was it's easy to get high in jail up here. I don't know how it is down there, but bored watching everybody else get high, and I started illustrating a coloring book. I just started drawing one, and I came up with this idea. It's called "Kill Yourself with Crayons," and it was 16 methods of suicide that you get to color in. And then with each method, it either comes with a place for you to put a suicide note with the character you get the color, or it comes with a real suicide note. And at the bottom of each method, it tells you how likely you are to die from the method, how long it takes to die from the method, and how much pain you'll suffer from it.
Wow.
So I was going through some shit.
Do you have the coloring book?
Oh yeah. I published that. I guess it's like almost 8 years ago now.
Like, I mean, do you have one now that we can see? Like with you?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see. Wow, you are so creative. I love when people like are so creative in recovery. Like, I thought the podcast was creative, but you like done a coloring book and the board game. I'm super excited to get that, guys. Like, anybody watching, the board game is where it's at.
Here is Kill Yourself with Crayons. And let me find. No, here's the first page. There's my
Wow,
shotgun.
that's really cool.
So I started this in jail, just doing all the sketches, and then when I got out, I, you know, put it all together, put it on the computer, and published it.
That is so cool. So, when did the game come about? How did that happen?
So I had the idea for the game maybe like 6 years ago, because I had also made another coloring book. It was called The Big Coloring Book for Alcoholics. And it was on par with the game where it's just like funny slogans and just stuff to color in. Like I don't have a copy of that one right now, but it was the word acceptance in the shape of a key. So like acceptance is key.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
And it was just like slogan stuff that I figured out how to illustrate and turn into something that you could color in. And so I had the idea maybe about 6 years ago. I was like, how do I make a game? And then I kind of just shelved the idea for a while because it was just like I was trying to like find how to link. You've played the game of life.
That's what.
So
Yeah,
I
that's what I
originally,
was telling. I was trying to describe it earlier, and I was like, it's kind of like life, but
so the game of life, I was trying to figure out the mechanics where it's like, okay, you can either go down the path of like addiction or recovery, and like you would go to the trap house or you'd go to rehab, and it was like I worked some of that out. I started sketching it out, but there was just too many moving parts, too much overhead to have the board and all. Like it was just a lot. And then 2 years ago, this New Year's Eve, I was at a game night and we were playing some card games, and then it just dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I could just make a card game. Just make it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. I don't need a board. I don't need little pieces. I don't need all this stuff. And I've figured out the mechanics. I took mechanics from a couple different games, and it's. I did a lot of research on how to create a game, so I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. That's how a lot of games are made. It's just so. And yeah, it just went from there. After I had the idea, I started ordering little blank decks of cards from Amazon and just hand drawing them on there and figuring out like, all right, like how do I make this happen? How do I create this game? And I created um, the character decks, and then I just it was such a tedious feat to take on at first. And every day after work, I would sit down for about an hour and just like, I would have my notebook at work and I would just like, if I had an idea for a card, I'd write it down and then I'd come home and I'd figure out what's the illustration for this and how is it funny and how do I how do I incorporate it into the game and until eventually like I had enough of the cards done. So then I had started working at a rehab center. Um, and then I just started taking this hand drawn prototype to work with me and letting the patients play it. And they absolutely loved it.
wow.
And then like, there was still a lot of problems with it because all the cards were white. So you couldn't tell whose cards were whose. And it just became a mess. And then I started color coding them and, really tweaking it until I had like a really functional prototype. And then it was every Friday night when I would go to work, they would just like, did you bring it? Did you bring the game? Like, that's all they wanted to do at the end of the night. So at that point, I knew like, all right, cool. Like I have something that actually works and they love it. And I will say that if I never sell a copy, it's still successful. I had a guy, he was fresh out of detox and he had just been on such a run. Like he was just beaten down. He looks like he hadn't smiled in 10 years. And some of the guys were playing the game and they brought him over and he sat down and, he had this moment where he was a part of that community. He got pulled into the fold. He was laughing, he was joking. And I was like, it's successful at this point. Like it did its thing. It got somebody that's just so fucked up to take a moment and laugh at themselves. Like, and that was the whole goal of it.
That is amazing. I love how you take like you're so creative, like the creative process. What how would you say you do like balancing out like the humor and the darkness? Because I know your game has some little, some stuff that's a little bit edgy and I love that. But how do you find good balance? Like
Oh, so there's a
Are you
lot of good stuff in the game. There's a lot of like, positive messages. Like, you receive a big book is a positive card. You did step work. It's it's not all dark humor. It's not, I wanted to make sure that this was like a balanced game. And there's things in here too that aren't so dark where it's like here's the, you let me where's my camera at? Why am I not on camera?
there you go, right there.
Right.
You shared at a
So
meeting, but you did it in a rap. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so they're just, a lot of comical things. Where if you've ever been to a meeting in the city, there's been some guy that raised his hand and started rapping. And it's just a cringe moment. Let me see. And there's other positives where you're really old, but you still manage to graduate drug court.
Nice. I love him. He's got his hat like he's like an old gangster. That's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just
And you did all these drawings yourself as well? You drew
yes.
them? Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of the artwork. I had some help because it's a lot. There's over 200 cards in here. So every day after work, I'd be home for an hour or two just drawing on my iPad.
Wow.
Painting cars all day and then going home to do this.
And how long did it take you to create the game in total?
About like a year and a half to have what I have now.
I want to real quick. I just want to give a shout out to some people over on TikTok. Hi, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. I saw earlier some people were like dropping sobriety dates. Somebody said they were. I think David said he was clean for a year. Congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
Tuna, hi. Thanks for being here. Oh, someone said I saved hundreds of dollars by switching to sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, David. He said he remembers the first time he used and he's glad he got some help. Absolutely. Just wanted to shout out to my TikTok fans over there. Thank you. So what role do you think like playfulness and coloring and stuff have in your recovery storytelling? Do you think that's like how you tell your story or just an outlet?
It's definitely an outlet. It's, there was somebody had mentioned to me years ago. I've relapsed since this information was given to me, but it always stuck with me. Where it was like, because I was like, I don't know what to do sober and not getting high. And they're like, well, what did you do before you got sober and we're getting high? And I was like, I don't know. I was a kid. I would draw and do graffiti and skateboard. He's like, all right, well, try that. So I did. I just got back into drawing and back into artwork, and I've done so much with it. I painted murals up and down the East Coast, making coloring books. I've done enamel pins. I get into doing graphic design for companies. I've painted, a lot of barbershops and boxing gyms. I've done a lot of work in those, and it's just, even if I don't make a dollar from it, it's still, if I'm spending my time doing that, it's so much more productive than, drinking or getting high.
Yeah, absolutely. So much more. So what message were you hoping that players would take away from the game? Anything at all or just
From people playing it?
Mhm.
It just it helps with a sense of camaraderie. It helps, people, especially in early recovery, like, when guys are playing this and they get that card and it's like, you got caught pawning your family's jewelry and you lose 2 points. And then the guy's sitting there, it's like, yeah, well, that's why I'm in rehab. And then it takes away some stigma from that. And it gives them a chance to sit there and, just laugh at yourself, joke around, share the stories back and forth. It's like that icebreaker to where somebody gets that card and they get to open up a little bit. Like, yeah, that happened to me.
I'm so sorry. This new
It's all
microphone
right.
is a condenser microphone, and I had a dynamic microphone, and they're not as sensitive. And the kids are so they're used to it being okay, like to just come in here and scream. But this microphone is so sensitive. I heard it in my headphones. It shot straight.
But yeah, it's just camaraderie, break stigma, give people like something fun to laugh about and find a connection with each other. That's the goal of the
Absolutely.
game.
I think it's so important to let people like relate, to be relatable, like to let them know that you're
Yeah.
not the only one that pawned your family's jewelry. You're not the only one that did whatever else some parts may say. And that really helps people. I stress that all the time on my lives. I'm so big about it. I say it almost every day that I think it's so important to share our experiences. We get stigmatized and it's called war storing and it's frowned upon. And I think it's bullshit. I think there's a fine
Yeah.
line. We have to be careful. Like we can't be, oh, it was
Yeah.
so cool. But just
Yeah, you can't glorify it.
right.
That's the difference. You laugh about it and you move on. You don't talk about how great it was or how cool it was. It's like, no, it was fucked up. But
That was stupid. Yeah. I was talking about myself earlier on the live, and I was like, how I said, like, I was like, oh, I'm 18, 19 years old with no response. And like, and I thought that was cool. And I'm like, no, I was the dumbass, but that's okay to share those things. And I think it's so important. So I really love this game. And when I got really looking into it, that's what I liked about it the most is that it was very, very relatable. It was real things like pawning jewelry or, relapsing or making your own choices in it. And that's really cool. And I think also like if it could be played like in treatment centers, that would be amazing because it would give people like, I don't know, like a practice at making choices. I don't know. Like I really think that's really cool.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't know. So once I published it, I got fired from my job at the treatment center.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
So they fired me because they said it's a conflict of interest because if somebody buys this, I now have a dual relationship with them, and it's like I wasn't going to fight and argue with them. So, but I don't know. I seen the benefit in patients firsthand where, I don't know what you're aware of in treatment, but a lot of them, they have their cell phones now. A lot of people are just, they're isolating in their rooms. They're on gambling apps or, just not focused on why they're in rehab. And, for the 4 nights a week that I worked there would be at least 5 or 6 guys that would all be in, the TV room playing this game rather than isolating, and it would be on topic. So I don't see how it's a negative.
Absolutely.
There's some touchy stuff in the game. There is a whole character that you could be. It's called the sex worker, and there's some off-color jokes in the cards, but there's nothing vulgar in it. There's no profanity. I kept the game pretty PG.
That's a real thing. Like in the drug, like it's taboo to talk about, but it's so real. It's so common. How many people did we know doing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's what makes the game great. What are the characters? How many characters are there?
So there's 4 characters in the base game. It's the drug addict, the alcoholic, the gambler, and the drug dealer. And in the expansion pack, you can be the sex worker. So I did separate the sex worker because it's such a taboo subject to where you can still get it, but it's not forced on you if you buy the game.
Yeah. So you said the drug dealer, alcoholic, the addict. What was the 4th one? The gambler?
The gambler.
Yep. Okay. So like all addictions, that's really cool. And so what are some of the choices they can make? Like just give us a few choices. Are they different for each player? Each player has their own pack, is that correct? Like each deck?
Yes, each player has their own deck. They're all very similar. They all have the similar mechanics. They're just the artwork, and there's some little subtle differences. So for the addict, one of his, so you have 4 types of moves that you can make. You can heal yourself from attacks, you can attack another player, you can shield yourself, or you can play a pass or play card, which draws from a communal deck. So, but for the addict, you have things like, here's an attack card where you panhandle and you take 1 point from each player.
Nice.
And but then you also have one. Let me find it real quick. Another attack one is though you get a staph infection and even you get hurt, so you get to lose a point too, and everybody else loses a point.
Staph infection. That's awesome. So real.
But
so real.
yeah. But the real fun of the game is the communal deck where you make each other, draw cards from, and that's when you can, lose or gain points. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's where you get 13 stepping the newcomer and you lose 2 points.
13 step in the newcomer minus 2 points. Absolutely. I just was talking about 13 step in earlier.
Or you can wind up with the Narcan card, and it's an extra life, and you can hold on to that in case you die.
Wow. It says keep this card to save yourself or a friend from overdose or unalive. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So even if somebody else loses the game, you can bring them back.
That's cool. You can bring back other players. Wow, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I read it and I didn't catch it, like what it meant. That's awesome.
Yeah. Or you can wind up, you get the overdose card and you're out of the game.
OD, yeah. Wow. And it's just in the deck. That's just random. You can pick that at any time.
Yep.
And wow, that's
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, you can get it on your first draw, or you never get it.
So in the expansion pack, is there anything else in the expansion pack aside from the sex worker?
Yeah. So in the expansion pack is the sex worker, and there's an additional 25 pass or play cards, the communal deck. So in that deck, you get things like you made a doorknob your high
power -2. I love it.
Or you are
You're the where's my hug guy -2.
There's a couple more. Let me see. So Rule 62. Do you know Rule 62?
I don't.
Rule 62 is an AA. It's an unwritten rule. It says we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Nice. I don't know if my friend Josh is watching, but he's a big AA guy. He would have known that. He's going to get on me. So what surprised you the most when people interacted with the game? Like what did you like? Was there any reactions that were unexpected for you?
No, it's really been like 100% positive for the game, and the only not positive interaction with it is people that just don't care about games. Yeah. I've seen some older people that just when I would play test it, that just didn't care. And the only negative response I've gotten from it are people that aren't in recovery or aren't in that world, because when I was making the game, I was in a bunch of forums for creating games. So, because I had a lot of stuff to learn. And when I would share my ideas and what the game was, people would start telling me like, oh, you don't know what these people have been through and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I do. I was like, who makes this game that hasn't been through it?
Right.
But yeah, the only negative responses I've gotten from this are, from clinicians and from people that have that are not in recovery.
What did the clinicians have to say about it? I'm curious.
They just say that it's you're supposed to take your recovery seriously, and like I get that. I don't not take my recovery seriously, but I also think that a little bit of gallows humor is good for camaraderie, and it's good to lighten the room. And I had this one guy who loved to play the game when I would bring it to work, and he worded it the best way. He's like we get to stay on topic, and there's levity. We get to laugh about it, but we're still talking about our recovery. Like I guess they don't get to do that in their groups as much as you can play in a game.
I think that. Oh, there's Josh. Let's see. It says we are not a gloom lot. This says in the big book. Yep. I told you he was the AA guy. So I love it. I want to tell you, I think it's amazing. I think you can really tell that you've been through it. It really came from somebody that, has experience, which I think is great that and clearly, did you like incorporate your lived experience into it?
Oh yeah, so many cards in there where this is just, it didn't take long to create I'd say 40% of this game where I could just sit there and list off cards selling your food stamps or pawning the family's jewelry or fighting the EMT that's trying to save me. Like, yeah.
Getting mad because they brought you back, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these cards were very easy to come up with. The real challenge was just like, how do I illustrate it? How do I, make the visualization to put on the card?
I think it's great. So where can we get this game?
So right now it is a print on demand. It's available at thegamecrafter.com. And once you're on their website, you just type in Relapse First Recovery, and it will bring you the game and the expansion pack.
I will drop that. I will connect that link to the episode of this podcast on YouTube and Podbean. So if anybody is interested, the link will be there in the description.
There's also a link tree on my TikTok.
There you go.
You can take it. That'll even take you to the coloring books also if you're interested.
Oh, nice. So that's probably even better. So there you go. I don't know how Linktree works. Can you send me that link somehow and I post it?
Yeah. So if you go on my TikTok, there's a link there, and you click on that. It shows you everything. It'll show you the coloring books, the game, the expansion pack. It'll show you all of it. You can just pick which one you want to click on. Perfect.
So, well, my next question was, how does your own journey connect with this project? But we kind of talked about that. So. What's the most meaningful feedback you've received?
From the game?
Mm-hmm. From your work in general,
I guess. Really watching that guy like crawl out of detox, and he was still just like out of it, and watch him smile and joke. Like, just watching him, a little bit of life come out of him in like a really fucked up dark time. Like, that's the best feedback. That it's an authentic feedback. It's not like somebody telling me how great it is. I'm just watching them actually enjoy that, and it just brings a little bit of joy into their life that is at a moment of just despair.
I think your game. I think like your game, they should put him in the gym. That would be awesome. Like,
Oh yeah, it's.
I would love that. Like, sorry, but like I was just thinking, like when I can remember being in detoxing in jail, and then you get to the point after a few days where like I gotta get up, and I would go like play cards and stuff, and you're like barely can barely sit up standing, and you're playing. But like I can imagine if I had this game, and that would be so freaking cool. Like even sick, even dope sick, I feel like I would have been like hyped up about it. I'm hyped up about it. I'm excited. I'm gonna check it out. So what's on do you have any more projects planned? Any more ideas?
So my next project is I'm going to take a bunch of stuff from this game and create its own adjacent coloring book.
Oh.
And add some activity pages into that. I have some stuff in the works for that. So it'll probably be, I think maybe like a 40-page book to go along with it. And then honestly, I'm not sure.
Well, it's okay. I mean, you've done so much. Josh, my friend Josh, his handle is the Dopeless Fiend, and he works at a really big rehab center. And maybe you guys can connect. He's actually an author. He wrote a couple books, and maybe we can connect you guys. He wrote. It's called The Flip Side: Different Sides of the Same Coin. I do readings on Facebook or on TikTok every day. I've been reading on this book. It's really amazing. It like wraps up. I don't want to get too caught up because I love his work. I'll talk about it forever. But he like takes his life experiences and his story, and he turns them into like lessons, like little stories, and then he connects scripture and sometimes steps. Really amazing. So he has two books. The other one is called A Friend of a Carpenter and a Man Named Bill. I think.
Okay.
Something to that effect, but he's amazing.
Send me the titles.
Sure.
Send me the titles when we get done.
Absolutely. So let's see what happens. If you could do one more uncomfortable but necessary project, what would it be? If you could make one, anything else? Do you have any other ideas? I think the game's pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know yet. So I like that the all the projects I've done so far just come organically. I don't plan for them so much as I just the idea comes, and then it's like, okay, cool, I'll make that coloring book, or I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go make this card game, and No, I guess the only one that's kind of not so organic, it is too though, but it's just like make an adjacent coloring book to go with the game. Just because it's kind of easy because I already have most of the artwork. I just got to format some stuff, and I am going to make new pages though for the like activity pages. I do want to make a maze inside the book where it's an AMA maze. So you're trying to leave rehab AMA, but if you go into certain ways, it'll take you to your counselor's office, or it'll take you to the nurse's station, or you wind up in a room where they hide your clothes from you, you know, stuff like that.
How do you
Yeah.
come up with it? Just comes to you? This is
Yep.
wow.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how like people's minds are so different. You know what I mean? Like how I can tell when you're like talking about the stuff that you're like seeing it. You know, like in your head. Like
Oh
and I
yeah, yeah. The idea comes, and if I chuckle, I'll make it.
well, that's great because if it makes you laugh, if you know that probably there's at least one other person out there that's gonna laugh at it. You know.
Yep. Yeah.
How would you want your legacy as a creator in recovery spaces to be remembered?
Just that how would I want my legacy in recovery spaces to be remembered? That that I didn't take myself too seriously, but I definitely took my recovery seriously, and my give back to the program and to people is laughter.
Absolutely. So, how would you say creating these projects has changed your perspective on recovery?
Um, One, so when I finished the very first coloring book I did, like I made it a point because like I was the type of person to never finish shit. I would never complete anything. I would always get fired from a job. I would start these projects and never finish them as an artist when I was, growing up. And just being able to when I finished that first book and I published it and I had it in my hand, it was like I can actually do some shit. Like I can see a project through. And that was a big boost for my recovery. Like that was the first year. And then it was, it was very, it helped with my confidence. It helped with my, just my own outlook on myself and my self-esteem to where I carried that into my career where then I built a life painting cars now. I've done all of this since I've been in recovery. Before I got in recovery, I was, just working in kitchens. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was like, I had no career. I wasn't driven. I had these, dead end jobs, not really doing anything with my life. And, it's all helped me to like be a good employee, be a good worker, be a good friend, a good father, a good brother, you know, like these little projects that I put together, it just shows me like I can start something, I can figure it out, see it through and finish it. And that's big in my recovery where I can start this recovery and I can stick with it.
Absolutely, that's huge. So, would you say that you use like humor or metaphor to make heavy topics approachable? Like, I feel like you've
Oh
got like,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna joke about it. If we're not joking about it, we're crying about it. What good's that gonna do us right now?
Right, absolutely.
People are more receptive to a laugh than you know. Yeah, that's yeah.
So, why crayons? In your coloring book, you said kill yourself with crayons. Why crayons?
Oh,
Is there a reason
so
or?
kill yourself with crayons. The title was I can't do it for real, and I was like kill yourself with crayons so you can just color it in. You can color in the suicide. You can, but I was in a dark place at that time. But I was trying to make light of it. I was just trying to make it a little absurd so that I didn't really want to kill myself.
Have you ever had anybody like tell you like how you've changed their life or their perspective with your work at all?
I don't know about change their life, no, but I've had people be like, tell me like, oh, this is awesome, it's helpful, thank you for making it, you
Absolutely.
know, I've gotten that level of positive feedback from it.
Sorry. Alarm for my we do a live at 7. So um let's see. I'm really out of questions. I guess we could talk about like where you're at now today. So you've been clean for like 9 years, and you said you're painting cars and
Yep.
um,
Painting cars now for about 7 years, since I've learned how to do it. um, Through it in my recovery, I built a schoolie. So I lived in a school bus for a year. I still figuring out what I'm going to do with that. This year, I went through a divorce, and it really sucked. It was
sorry to
a
hear.
pretty dark time, but so after that all finalized, I decided to like really focus more on getting the game out there and polishing it up and seeing what I can do with it. And yeah, I'm still going to meetings. Um, and yeah, just
Are you like, do you sponsor people and work recovery hard or no?
no, I do not. So I have a very nuanced view of sponsorship that it doesn't exist in the first 164 pages. So I think it's made up. The word sponsor does not exist in the big book until you get into the stories. So I do have people that I talk to before I make major decisions. I have, my family, my friends, but, I've been taken through the steps with people. I would take people through the steps if they asked me. I'm somebody that people do call first in life. Um, but as far as sponsorship goes, it's a weird subject for me.
That's okay. I want to give a shout out real quick on TikTok to Wolverine. Thank you for the I love that. We have a couple. They're like Marvel. It's a Marvel series. I actually got them at Dollar General. So the poster behind me, someone was commenting on. I have another one.
Nice.
It fell down. Spidey. Oh, the TikTok can't see it. Hold on. This one fell down, but there's another one on our wall over there. It's just like the Avengers, I think. My husband likes, he's into Marvels and comic books, stuff like that. And I got them at the dollar store for $10 a piece. I love them. Love the dollar store. So I just had a question in my head and I completely forgot it. But I was going to do some recovery questions. Oh, what do you think is your biggest strength in your recovery?
Probably my lack of avoidance in a subject. If there's something wrong, I don't have a problem addressing it today, as opposed to when I'm out there, I'm always just trying to numb myself or dull myself down to where I don't have to face reality. To where now I have no problem facing any topic or situation head on.
Absolutely. So if you could sit beside yourself in your heart in your darkest hour and tell yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
You're going to be all right.
Nice. I like that. I love that question because it really makes you think. Really, all for you. I don't want to drag out the interview. I hate just spinning in the mud. I'm not, we're 10 minutes left, 10 minutes out. Not a big deal. I have a live at 7. Anyways, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you sharing the game. I'm definitely going to check it out. I was
Yeah,
super
thanks for
shocked.
having me.
You guys, I think I'm really clicked. You guys are very creative types. You're welcome back anytime. I do lots of different stuff on my show. If you ever want to do a different segment, if you want to talk about anything specific in your life or any piece of your story that you'd like to share, I'd love to have you back.
Okay.
Also, aside from that, I'm just going to plug in real quick. We do lives on TikTok every night at 7 through the week, 7:30 on the weekends. I'm in Eastern Standard Time. I do this podcast on Fridays at 6 and Saturdays, usually at 1:30. This week is 4. I change it sometimes for the guest schedule. And I think that's all. I have a migraine. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I can't wait. If you get the games, and let me know how you feel and what you like about it. I always love feedback.
Absolutely. We have comments. People said they love you. When can you notice
Thank
the
you.
difference? Oh, when you can notice the difference, that's true growth. Absolutely. I just said earlier on my live, hi everybody, that when I met my husband and I had to give the conversation about my whole past, like, because he didn't know.
Mhm.
And he like looked at me and he was like, I can't even see that. Like that was my first biggest
Oh
moment,
yeah.
like where I was like, yeah, I'm like, that's right. You don't even know that person. He was like, I can't even see that from like that person is not here. And like those words have hit, like they've stuck with me. Like that was probably the first time that I was like, he's right. Like so
I
that was
used to get that a lot when I was working at the rehab, and I would start to tell people a little bit about my past, and they're like, "Yeah, there's no way." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's the reality. This is what recovery looks like. You would never guess it, you know."
never guessed it. Yep, absolutely. So like I mean, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being in my lives, guys. Thank you, everybody. We were just closing out. I was just checking the comments. If anybody had any other questions for Dave, now's the time. We've got just a few more minutes. They said, I need this tonight. I don't know. On Facebook, whoever said, I need this tonight, we are actually closing up right now, but we are going to TikTok. I'll be live on TikTok at 7, Feral but Sober on TikTok. It doesn't show me your name. It just says Facebook user. But please come join us
Right.
over there. We do it. That's a group where we all just kind of popcorn style. We have a topic. Sometimes we stay on it. Sometimes we don't. Feel free to come over. We'd love to have you. Bye, Dave. Thanks.